The United States of America is a vast and diverse nation located in North America, bordered by Canada to the north, Mexico to the south, the Atlantic Ocean to the east, and the Pacific Ocean to the west. The U.S. is a federal republic with 50 states and Washington, D.C. as its capital. It is the third largest country by both land area and population, with over 330 million people. The United States operates under a democratic system with three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, designed to ensure a balance of power. The president serves as both the head of state and government. The United States has a mixed economy, driven by advanced technology, a strong financial system, and diverse industries like manufacturing, agriculture, and services. The United States of America is a cultural melting pot, with influences from around the world. It is famous for its contributions to music, film, and literature, and is home to iconic landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Grand Canyon, and the White House. As a global superpower, the USA plays a significant role in international politics, economics, and military affairs. It is a founding member of the United Nations and NATO, and continues to be a central player on the world stage.
Hello, you're watching Ambassador Corner here on TVRI World. For this very special edition, we come to you from the residence of the Ambassador of the United States of America to Indonesia. We're here today to get acquainted a little better with the Ambassador, and in light of the 75 years of diplomatic relations between Indonesia and the United States, we're also here to explore and to dig deeper into ways to forge a stronger ties between the two countries. I'm Rahmat Idris. It is my utmost delight and honor to be seated in conversation with the Ambassador of United States of America to Indonesia, Her Excellency Kamala Shirin Lakhdhir. A very good day to you, Madam Ambassador. Thank you very much for welcoming us in this beautiful space of yours, and welcome to Indonesia.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back, you should say.
Welcome back. I've received a report that you've arrived many, many years ago to the country, but we are aware that you've just recently been appointed as the Ambassador of U.S. to Indonesia. You arrived a little around a month ago here in the country, so that's exciting to hear. When I first read the news that you received the reports that you're going to be posted to Indonesia back in May 2024, what was the first thing that crossed through your mind?
So actually what happened in May 2024 was that I was confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and that is the last step sort of in becoming ambassador. President Biden had selected me as ambassador earlier than that because I serve both as the president's representative, but all U.S. ambassadors have to also be confirmed by the Senate. Yeah. So I was surprised because you don't know when that's going to happen, and immediately I started working with the team in Washington and the team here at the embassy to prepare to come. Right. And I was very excited to finally being able to come to Indonesia and to begin this responsibility, this important position. So I was very happy.
Right. So being posted in a country as yet another fellow member of G20, vast archipelago, and one, if not the biggest economy in Southeast Asia. And you were also posted in Malaysia for a time, being accustomed to the local culture. So, and you also said that a little over 30 years ago, you first landed in the country. How do you make the comparisons then and as opposed to now as you are an ambassador being posted in the country?
So I served here from 1994 to 1996. I was a young officer. It was my second assignment in the Foreign Service. The thing that feels so familiar and so wonderful is the warmth and the graciousness of the Indonesian people. People have welcomed me back. Some people at the embassy actually worked with me 30 years ago. Some of them have retired, but I've seen them. And the warmth of our embassy community, of all the Indonesians I've met, including your team, and is wonderful. And that's how I remember 30 years ago. I also remembered, and this is still true, that Indonesian people were very interested in a strong friendship with the United States.
Yeah.
We're interested in how our country and Indonesia share so much in common, and how we have culture that we share, we have educational aspirations, so many things between our two peoples. And so it's wonderful to come back. And of course, because I'm here, I'm getting to eat lots of food that I haven't had for a long time. So I am also very happy about that.
Well, you're going to be doing some walking down the memory lanes, I suppose, there. Well, Madam Ambassador, we're also aware that you are such a long career diplomat. I mean, your achievements, such an illustrious career in diplomacy. Walk us through some of the biggest highlights in your career of diplomacy and being posted around the globe.
So I've been in the Foreign Service, the Career Professional Diplomatic Corps, for 33 years. I just passed my anniversary. I have been blessed with wonderful opportunities. I served in Saudi Arabia, I served in Indonesia, I served in Beijing, China for 4 years. I also was Consul General in Northern Ireland. I also, most recently, I served as the Executive Secretary of the Department of State. Secretary Blinken called me in Malaysia and asked me if I would take on that role, which was responsibility to serve him and his leadership team and the entire department in the beginning of the new administration. So I also worked, it's one of the things I'm proud of is as executive secretary, part of our responsibility is worrying about crisis management and helping our embassies overseas if they are facing a crisis. For example, the one I had before I left was in Sudan, and ensuring that our diplomats and colleagues were safely evacuated. So there are many things I've done over 33 years, but I am proudest of the people I work with, the people in Indonesia at the embassy and across my career who have taught me so much, continue to teach me so much. And that is the best thing about being in the Foreign Service. It's working with the people in our missions and our embassies, as well as working with our host nation counterparts.
And we believe that your experiences worldwide will contribute to your stewardship here in the country as well.
Inshallah.
Madam Ambassador, your first week here in the country, I've read a report that you've presented your letter of trust to President Joko Widodo of Indonesia. Walk us through some of the key highlights of that very pertinent meeting.
So actually, when you present your credentials, you do not, you present them, he accepts them, and then you stand in line. It's very formal.
You didn't get to converse.
And then afterwards you go around and you get a picture taken. And so the converse was something like this. Thank you very much, Mr. President. But actually that afternoon I met with President-elect Prabowo, which was a very good courtesy call meeting. And then the next day I met with Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi, and that was a very good conversation. So I was very much welcomed, and there are so many things already that we are working on together. So I was very honored to be part of presenting the letter of credentials.
Right. So having met our top leaders here in the country, particularly President-elect Prabowo Subianto, who will be receiving the torch from current president, the incumbent, how would you see moving forward, we push for the agenda of bilateral and diplomatic ties between Indonesia and the U.S.?
So I think that many of the things that President-elect has laid out in his campaign, and he is continuing to speak on, we are already working together with Indonesia in those areas. And so I think this is an opportunity because Indonesia will have a new administration, a new president and cabinet, and we have just signed the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. So how we, as the two governments and the two peoples, can build on the foundation we already have and to strengthen and expand these common priorities. So many things that we share is a concern for food security, energy security, public health, expanding and deepening educational cooperation, maritime security. I could keep going. There's so many more. But I think many of them in this transition, the new president intends to carry forward. And these are high priorities for the United States. So I think we have a very good foundation for continuing our partnership and friendship.
Right. And that brings me to my next question to you, Madam Ambassador, because it was such a pivotal moment in our diplomatic and bilateral relations in November 2023 when the signing of the so-called Comprehensive Strategic Partnership was conducted. It was a long championed efforts by both countries. What does it mean exactly? What does it entail, these comprehensive strategic partnership for both Indonesia and the U.S. moving forwards, further highlighting the sectors that you mentioned earlier?
So I think in the most simple way, it was a call from both of our presidents to a call for us to expand and deepen the cooperation we already have, to build on 75 years of bilateral relations, looking forward to the next 75 years, and what we can do as partners and friends, and to call on both our governments and our peoples that we need to expand and deepen our cooperation. And that has to look forward, that we have to look at what is going to be the global and regional situation as we move forward and how we can collectively place Indonesia and the United States and the region in a safe, prosperous, and secure position to the future. And I often think about the youth of Indonesia and the youth of the United States and how we are planning for them. Indonesia is a very young country, and so it's very important that we look at what will be the situation of the youth in 25 or 50 years, and are we moving in a direction that will benefit them and benefit the youth of the United States?
Right. I'd like to touch on the topic of U.S.'s role, not only domestically in Indonesia, but also in the region, Madam Ambassador. Back in 2022, when we assumed the presidency of the G20, I had the privilege to ask questions, to speak to Secretary of State, Mr. Antony Blinken, asked about U.S.'s role in Indo-Pacific and how all of these economic powers and rivalries and geopolitical tensions play pivotal roles within the region. And a year later, we had VP Kamala Harris here in the country for the ASEAN chairmanship of Indonesia as well, also further highlighting the integral role of U.S. in Indo-Pacific. Now, fast forward to 2024, how do you see a central and strategic role of the United Nations that it will play against all of these countries trying to assert their influence within the region?
So, at the most basic level, which I'm sure Secretary Blinken and the Vice President reiterated, is we are a Pacific nation. We have been present in the region for hundreds of years. In terms of trade and economic investment, we have very close relations across the region and in Southeast Asia. The prosperity of the United States and the prosperity of the region are tied together. We are committed to a safe and secure Indo-Pacific region for the benefit of the people in the region and and the benefit of the United States. So our focus on security and a rule-based order is tied to the benefits for all the peoples of the region. So I think we have a very strong commitment that is continuing on. And I think we also look to ASEAN and Indonesia as the largest member of ASEAN in partnership with how we build a more prosperous, more secure ASEAN region and Indo-Pacific. So one of our core partners in our vision of, for the region is how we work with ASEAN and in particular Indonesia.
And especially with the upholding of international law and peacekeeping missions, which seems to be quite a question in some parts of the globe as we speak right now. Madam Ambassador, one of the biggest homeworks for our country is addressing the repercussions of climate change. And for that matters, we are extremely privileged to have the opportunity to work with the U.S., pioneering and championing the so-called just energy transitions with memberships from different countries, Japan, Canada, and notable European countries as well. And just last night, making its way to the headlines was that we have received the funding, the financing for the programs. From the U.S. perspective, Ambassador Kamala, how would you see that the U.S. will target some key projects to turn around the impacts of climate change in our country?
So the U.S. has a very strong commitment to JETP program. We are seeking and we have identified projects where we can provide financing. This is a combination of private sector, government and private financing that we're galvanizing. It also involves the Indonesian government and Indonesian companies and other companies. So, for example, just before I came here, we completed a project in geothermal. Other countries, as you correctly said. So our partners are also seeking to galvanize the same type of financing. And we are hoping to accelerate concluding those projects and financing. I think it's, from my point, this is a long-term commitment the U.S. has, and it is very important that Indonesia begins having more and more renewable energy and projects that prove how to do it. So I am very happy that we are working together on this, and I'm very happy that we have other partners such as Norway and Denmark. The other piece that we have, that we share and that we are working on together is going into the next COP. So this is the larger climate change global discussion, and that Indonesia is a very important partner in the discussions we've had previously and now going into Baku.
Right. Well, COP28 in Dubai was certainly something to see, and hopefully a revealing moment will present itself later on in Azerbaijan as well. On that note, Madam Ambassador, we have made significant strides, and together hopefully we can reach the, or rather not reach beyond the threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Not even ever warming for a global planet. Its loss and damages is just something beyond our grasp. And I'd like to also touch on you mentioned briefly your meeting with President-elect, which is also currently, right now, is the Minister of Defense of the Republic of Indonesia. And the military cooperation of Indonesia and the U.S. has been long established. And we also share the same principles, as you mentioned earlier, the peacekeeping missions, the upholding of international law. How do we go about moving forward and strengthening the ties in terms of military and defense cooperation?
So as you know, and you correctly note, that we have many joint exercises. We now also have multilateral exercises together between Indonesia, the United States, and our partners. Just last night in this house, we had a reception to celebrate the beginning of Super Garuda Shield, which begins next week. It has become a multilateral exercise that is deepening in complexity, so it provides greater training and interoperability between all of the military services. I'm also very proud because we have Indonesians who are students in all our service academies. We also have Indonesians in our higher professional military academies. I met the Indonesian at the National War College before I came out.
Yeah.
So I think that our generational, across generations, cooperation across our militaries is very strong, and we are looking to deepen it and support it. I know we have a lot of focus on maritime security. We have opened the new training center in cooperation with Indonesia at Batam. So all of these things are following what is Indonesia's focus on security and how the United States can provide capacity building and strength and support.
Right. And you, correct me if I'm wrong, you also earned your master's degree from the War College.
I did.
So your contributions, your insights will be invaluable for our country indeed.
I learned a lot about the U.S. military, so I hope to bring that to help our cooperation.
Indeed. We're almost out of time here with you, Madam Ambassador. 75 years of our bilateral and diplomatic relations. That's a momentous occasion. What's on the table for the celebration and the anniversary? From what we know, over in Washington, D.C. and all over America, our embassies are having massive events to celebrate this. What's on the table for the embassy here in Jakarta?
So we are going to have a celebration in December. I think I'm not fully allowed to discuss it.
You've barely arrived, so you're going to be...
Well, no. So we will have a celebration with Indonesians and Indonesian Americans and Americans, and you will certainly be invited to participate.
We would love to be able to take part in it.
And also, I was promised chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake?
Yes, because for me, the 75th anniversary is a birthday party, so we should have cake.
That is excellent to hear.
Exactly. This surprised the team. They were like, you want cake? And I said, yes, and it has to be chocolate.
Right. Well, just lastly, Madam Ambassador, I mean, you were here 30 years ago, and you're going to be here for quite a while now.
Yes, I hope.
Looking back, are you planning to visit some of the places that you get to see in the old days, and just to see how much they've transformed, how much they've changed, and plan to traverse more and further parts of Indonesia? We have Bali and another 15 super priority tourism destinations as well, just to further let the U.S. folks know about it.
Yes, but also I want to go to places across Indonesia to meet Indonesian people and to meet ordinary people and see what they are doing, what their entrepreneurship is, what their goals and vision are. So I hope to travel a lot. You will laugh. And when I was in Malaysia, I went to every state.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's a little more difficult in Indonesia. But I have a goal to travel widely and meet people and hear from people and learn from people about what their concerns are. And we are working across many provinces, USAID, our MCA. We are about to sign, hopefully, a new compact in early September. Our second compact, and so they will be working in priority provinces. So going in support of U.S. initiatives, working with our Indonesian partners and friends.
Right, certainly heartwarming to hear that. We can't wait to see what you're going to do here in our country, Madam Ambassador, and we have to leave it at that. I'd like to express our deepest gratitude for making your time here on TVRI, the Ambassador of the United States of America to Indonesia, Your Excellency Kamala Shirin Lakhdhir. Thank you very much for your time and your insights.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the conclusion of Ambassador Corner here on TVRI World. Well, definitely 75 years is a milestone when it comes to bilateral and diplomatic relations between Indonesia and the United States of America. Just bright future ahead. And with that, we conclude the Ambassador Corner. I'm Rahmat Idris from the residence of U.S. Ambassador. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.